Then Miller had a special talent that made him famous in his military unit. He could sleep through absolutely anything. While other soldiers jumped at every loud noise, Ben slept like a baby. His bunk in the barracks became legendary, and soldiers would often bring visitors just to watch him sleep through their loudest conversations. On the morning that changed human history forever, Ben was doing what he did best. The first alien ships appeared in the sky at 600 hours, their massive forms blocking out the sun over major cities worldwide. Military bases across the globe went into high alert, sirens blaring at maximum volume. In Base Camp Echo, soldiers rushed to their stations, gear clattered against walls, and boots thundered down hallways. Captain Lisa Wright burst into the barracks, her voice sharp with urgency. "Everyone up. This is not a drill." She stopped short when she saw Ben, still peacefully asleep on his bunk, one arm dangling over the edge. A small puddle of drool had formed on his pillow. "Miller," she shouted. No response. "Private First Class Miller." Still nothing. The ground shook as something massive passed overhead. The windows rattled, and the metal roof creaked under the pressure wave. Ben rolled over, mumbled something about 5 more minutes, and continued sleeping. Lisa watched in disbelief as her most junior private slept through what could be the beginning of an alien invasion. She grabbed her tablet and started recording. Something told her this might be important later. In orbit, the Zarkak's first contact fleet was following standard invasion protocols. Their massive ships had taken position over Earth's major military installations, ready to begin their carefully crafted psychological warfare campaign. The Zarkaks had perfected the art of conquest through fear over thousands of years. No species had ever lasted more than a few hours against their initial shock and awe display. High Commander Zexkar watched the live feeds from their ground sensors with anticipation. The readings showed elevated heart rates and stress hormones in most humans, exactly as expected. But one reading made no sense. The commander adjusted the sensors, certain there must be an error. "Analyst Verify, explain this anomaly," Zexkar ordered, pointing to the peculiar reading from Base Camp Echo. The ship's chief psychological warfare expert studied the data with growing confusion. "According to these readings, one human is sleeping. That's impossible. The sound levels alone should have triggered their survival instincts." Back on Earth, Ben's morning nap continued undisturbed as chaos erupted around him. His fellow soldiers had given up trying to wake him, instead setting up a defensive perimeter around the base. Some of them had started taking bets on whether even an alien invasion could interrupt Ben's sleep schedule. Captain Wright had moved her command center into the barracks, partially because it was a good strategic location, but mostly because she couldn't stop watching Ben sleep. As she coordinated Earth's first defensive actions against an alien invasion, she kept glancing at the private who had somehow slept through first contact. The Zarkaks launched their first warning shot, a controlled plasma burst that lit up the sky and set off every car alarm within 10 miles. The blast wave rattled buildings and shattered windows across the base. Ben shifted slightly, pulled his blanket up higher, and kept sleeping. In orbit, the Zarkak's commanders watched in horror as their sensors confirmed the impossible. A member of this supposedly primitive species was experiencing deep, peaceful sleep during what should have been the most terrifying moment in their planet's history. For the first time in their long history of conquest, the Zarkaks felt something new: uncertainty. High Analyst Verify couldn't stop watching the footage of Ben Miller sleeping. The alien scientist had studied countless species across the galaxy, but none had ever reacted like this. On their main viewing screen, the human continued to sleep peacefully while chaos unfolded around him. The Zarkak's research vessel hummed with nervous energy as more analysts gathered to study the phenomenon. They had expected humans to be like other prey species, always alert, easily startled, and driven by fear. Instead, they found themselves watching a human sleep through noise levels that would send their own warriors into panic attacks. "Play the recording from time mark 2300, Verthide ordered. The screen showed Ben sleeping through an artillery barrage that lit up the night sky. The human simply rolled over and pulled his pillow closer. In the corner of the lab, a junior analyst was having a breakdown. It's not natural. Nothing sleeps through danger like that. They must be more advanced than we thought. Meanwhile, on Earth, Ben was finally waking up from his extended nap. He stretched, yawned, and looked around the barracks with mild interest. The windows were gone, replaced by energy shields. Soldiers rushed back and forth carrying weapons he had never seen before. Captain Wright sat at a makeshift command center, directing troops while keeping one eye on him. "Morning, Captain," Ben said, running a hand through his messy hair. "Did I miss breakfast?" Lisa Wright stared at him. "Miller, we are in the middle of an alien invasion. You've slept through 6 attacks, 2 evacuation orders, and what might have been the loudest explosion in human history." Ben nodded thoughtfully. "So, no breakfast then." Up in orbit, Verithay's research team was falling apart. They had expected to study human fear responses. Instead, they found themselves documenting human casualness in the face of terror. The more they watched, the more their own fear grew. "Look at this," one analyst said, pointing to new footage. "The human Miller is eating something called a sandwich while sitting next to an impact crater. He appears to be enjoying it." Verithay felt a headache coming on. Their entire military strategy relied on breaking enemy morale through fear. How could they fight an enemy that napped through their best efforts? Back at Base Camp Echo, Ben had settled into his new routine. He took his regular morning nap despite the ongoing battles. He had lunch in the middle of a firefight. When asked about the aliens, he just shrugged and said they were kind of noisy. Captain Wright had started using Ben's nap schedule to plan operations. The aliens seemed completely thrown off by his behavior. They would pause their attacks just to watch him sleep, giving Earth forces valuable time to regroup. "Miller," she said one evening, "do you realize you're driving the aliens crazy?" Ben looked up from his dinner. "Are there aliens? I thought we were having really weird weather." In the Zarkak's command ship, Verithay submitted his preliminary report on human psychology. The summary was simple. Traditional fear tactics ineffective. Subject displays unprecedented psychological resilience. Recommendation: reevaluate entire invasion strategy. The High Commander read the report 3 times. Each reading made them more nervous. Somewhere on the planet below, Ben Miller was getting ready for his evening nap, completely unaware that his sleeping habits were dismantling an alien invasion force's entire military doctrine. As Earth's forces prepared for another night of battle, Ben fluffed his pillow and closed his eyes. The last thing he heard before drifting off was Captain Wright's voice. "All units, Miller is going to sleep. Expect the enemy to be completely distracted for the next few hours." Lieutenant Amy Martinez discovered something interesting about human behavior during the 3rd week of the alien invasion. While coordinating a defensive operation, she noticed her soldiers playing cards between firefights. One private was even teaching a rookie how to juggle using spare ammunition clips. The aliens didn't know what to make of it. Their surveillance showed humans treating the war zone like a casual gathering. During one particularly heavy bombardment, Amy's unit organized an impromptu birthday party for one of their surgeons. "Pass me another slice of cake," Amy said, ducking under a plasma burst. "And someone tell Miller to wake up. It's his turn to man the defense turret." Ben rolled off his makeshift bed, which was really just 2 supply crates pushed together. "Best nap ever," he said, stretching. "Did anyone save me some cake?" The Zarkak's observers were losing their minds. Their sensors picked up laughter, music, and casual conversations mixing with battle noise. It went against everything they understood about warfare. High Analyst Verithay called an emergency meeting of the Invasion Force's Psychological Warfare Division. The room was filled with nervous aliens, many showing signs of stress shedding, a common Zarkak's response to confusion. "Look at this footage," Verithay said, pointing to a screen. "These humans are having what they call a coffee break in the middle of our most intense attack. And here, this one is doing something called crossword puzzles while manning a defensive position. One analyst raised a trembling claw. But what about our fear toxins, the ones we released last week? Verithai clicked to another video feed. It showed Ben sleeping peacefully while others in his unit played cards, all wearing gas masks. Someone had drawn a smiley face on Ben's mask while he slept. On the ground, Amy's unit had turned psychological warfare back on the aliens. They started broadcasting the sound of human laughter over the battlefield. The effect on the Zarkak's troops was devastating. They couldn't understand why their enemies were so happy during combat. "Hey, Miller," Amy called out during a quiet moment. "Want to help us with something?" Ben looked up from his lunch. "Sure, what do you need?" "We're going to record you snoring." The aliens seemed to find it particularly disturbing. Ben shrugged. "Okay, but I need my pre-recording nap first." Captain Wright had started receiving reports from other bases worldwide. It wasn't just Ben anymore. Humans everywhere were showing remarkable calm under pressure. A base in Australia had organized a barbecue during an orbital bombardment. Soldiers in Brazil were seen playing soccer between battles. The Zarkak's military command was in crisis. Their troops were reporting increasing anxiety about human behavior. Some refused to attack, terrified by the sight of humans casually going about their daily routines amid the chaos of war. "Lieutenant," a soldier called to Amy, "the aliens are retreating from Sector 7. Apparently, they saw someone doing yoga in the middle of no man's land and panicked." Amy nodded, marking the position on her tactical display. She had learned to use human casualness as a weapon. Her units now carried playing cards and board games as standard equipment. The sound of human laughter had become more effective than any conventional weapon. In his corner of the barracks, Ben continued his usual cycle of naps, completely unaware that his sleeping habits had become a crucial part of Earth's defense strategy. The aliens had started timing their retreats to his sleep schedule, terrified of what it meant when humans felt safe enough to sleep during battle. As night fell, Amy watched Ben settle in for another nap. "Sweet dreams, Miller," she said, smiling. "You're doing more for the war effort asleep than most people do awake." The Zarkaks unleashed their most terrifying weapons in the 4th week of the invasion. They called them the Fear Bringers, massive creatures engineered to cause panic by their mere presence. These beasts had scared entire civilizations into surrender before. Colonel Frank Peters watched the first Fear Bringer land near Base Camp Echo. It was 3 stories tall, covered in sharp spikes, and had too many eyes to count. Its roar shook the ground and made the air feel heavy. The colonel prepared for panic among his troops. Instead, he heard someone laugh. "Look," a soldier called out, pointing at Ben Miller. "He's using it as a pillow." Sure enough, Ben had found a comfortable spot against one of the creature's massive legs. The beast had frozen in confusion, all its eyes focused on the sleeping human who showed no sign of fear. Ben had even brought his favorite blanket. The Fear Bringer tried to roar again, but its heart wasn't in it. How could it terrorize someone who thought it made a nice backrest? High Analyst Verithai watched the scene from orbit, feeling a headache coming on. They're not supposed to sleep next to them. Fear Bringers cause nightmares just by existing. This defies all psychological research. The situation got worse for the aliens when other humans started treating the Fear Bringers like pets. Amy's unit began leaving out water bowls. Someone stuck a good boy sticker on one of the creatures. Another soldier was seen throwing a stick for a Fear Bringer to fetch. Colonel Peters decided to use this unexpected development to their advantage. He ordered his troops to give the creatures names and treat them like oversized puppies. By the end of the day, 3 Fear Bringers had switched sides, one over by belly rubs and treats. "Sir," a lieutenant reported, trying not to laugh, "the aliens are pulling back their bioweapons. Apparently, seeing their ultimate terror weapons playing fetch was too much for them." Ben finally woke up from his nap, patting the confused Fear Bringer on its leg. "Nice pillow," he said, stretching. "Kind of warm and scaly, though." Maybe we could get it a blanket. The creature, which the soldiers had named Fluffy, made a sound somewhere between a purr and a whimper. It had been engineered for maximum terror, but had no protocol for dealing with friendly humans who treated it like a large, spiky pet. In the Zarkax command ship, Verithai submitted another emergency report. Fear-bringers compromised. Humans show no terror response. Instead, they display affection and assign cute names to biological weapons. Recommend immediate withdrawal of all terror-based units. The High Commander read the report with trembling claws. Their most powerful psychological weapons were being defeated by human nonchalance and belly rubs. It was unprecedented. Back at the base, Colonel Peters watched as his soldiers organized a grooming session for their new alien pets. Ben had gone back to sleep, this time using Fluffy's tail as a hammock. The Fear-bringer looked oddly content, all its eyes half closed in relaxation. "Lieutenant Martinez," Peters called out, "how are our new recruits doing?" Amy looked up from where she was teaching another Fear-bringer to sit on command. "They're quick learners, sir. This one already knows stay and roll over, though we might need bigger treat portions." As night fell, the base had become an unusual sight. Fear-bringers dozed alongside human soldiers, some wearing oversized party hats that someone had found in storage. Ben slept peacefully in his tail hammock, while Fluffy kept watch, occasionally growling at any Zarkax ships that flew too close. The aliens had created the ultimate weapons of terror, only to watch them be turned into oversized pets by humans who refused to be scared. It was becoming clear that this invasion wasn't going as planned. The Zarkax Empire was facing its greatest crisis in 10,000 years of conquest. Their entire society, built on fear and intimidation, was crumbling. The cause? Humans who refused to be scared, and particularly one human who kept napping through their best terror tactics. Junior warriors watched the recordings of Ben Miller sleeping through battles with growing anxiety. Young Zarkax began questioning their most basic military training. If humans could sleep through their attacks, were they really as frightening as they thought? In the main war room of the Zarkax flagship, High Commander Zexkar faced a full-scale mutiny. Their warriors were too afraid to attack the humans, not because humans were scary, but because humans weren't scared of them. "Another unit has requested withdrawal," an officer reported, their voice shaking. "They say the humans were having a movie night during our latest assault, something called Comedy Night. The sound of their laughter is disturbing our troops." Verithai had started documenting what he called the Miller effect, the strange way human casualness spread fear through Zarkax ranks. His research team was in shambles. 3 analysts had quit after watching humans use fear-bringers as pillows. On Earth, Ben's fame had spread worldwide. Other military units tried to copy his relaxed attitude. Soldiers posted pictures of themselves napping in battle zones. It became a trend to send selfies with confused fear-bringers in the background. Captain Wright found Ben in his usual spot, sleeping against Fluffy while other fear-bringers played cards with off-duty soldiers. "Miller, you've started a revolution without even trying." Ben opened one eye. Did someone say something about lunch? The Zarkax social media networks, usually filled with battle glory and conquest stories, were now flooded with images of humans being casually unbothered by their presence. Each new picture caused more panic among their population. "Look at this one," the Zarkax social analyst said, pointing to a viral image. "A human child is using our battle tank as a slide. And here, they're hanging laundry on our plasma cannons." In their military academies, young Zarkax warriors were developing new phobias. The sight of a sleeping human caused panic attacks. The sound of human laughter sent them running. Even their battle simulators had to be adjusted because cadets were too scared to attack virtual humans. Back at Base Camp Echo, Amy's unit had turned their section of the base into something between a military installation and a casual lounge. Soldiers alternated between manning defense turrets and teaching fear-bringers to dance. "The aliens are broadcasting again," a communications officer told Amy. But this time it sounds like they're crying. Amy nodded. Record it. The sound of alien confusion has become our most effective defense. The Zarkax Emperor demanded answers from their military command. How had their fearsome empire been reduced to this? Their warriors were now afraid to sleep, worried they might show weakness like humans. Verthay's latest report was just one line. They are immune to fear because they refuse to take us seriously enough to be afraid. As the alien empire faced its identity crisis, Ben continued his usual routine. He had added afternoon tea breaks between naps, often sharing cookies with Fluffy and the other fear-bringers. The once terrifying creatures had learned to purr and ask for belly rubs. Captain Wright updated their military strategy. Step 1. Let Miller sleep. Step 2. Watch aliens panic about Step 1. Step 3. Victory. It wasn't traditional military doctrine, but in this strangest of all wars, it was working perfectly. Captain Wright's unit prepared for their most important mission yet, a direct assault on the main Zarkax fleet. Their secret weapon, Ben Miller's regular nap schedule and a playlist of relaxing Earth music. Remember, she told her troops, our goal is to be as casual as possible. The more relaxed we are, the more it disturbs them. Ben was already asleep in the transport ship, using a fearbringer's tail as a blanket. Fluffy and 2 other converted bioweapons had insisted on joining the mission, now wearing Earth military patches on their spiky hides. Lieutenant Amy Martinez had prepared what she called psychological unwarfare. Her plan was simple: play soothing elevator music over the alien communication channels while having her soldiers act like they were on a casual day trip. Check your weapons, pack your snacks, and don't forget to smile at the enemy, she instructed. It drives them crazy when we treat battles like picnics. The human fleet approached the Zarkax Armada. The alien ships bristled with weapons, their hull designs meant to strike fear into anyone who saw them. Instead, they received radio transmissions of humans discussing weekend plans and sharing recipes. This is Lieutenant Martinez to all units. Amy broadcast on an open channel. Don't forget it's game night after the battle. I brought Monopoly and snacks. The effect on the Zarkax was immediate. Their ships began moving erratically as the crews tried to process humans treating a space battle like a social event. On the Zarkax command ship, Verthai watched in horror as his worst fears came true. They're playing what they call smooth jazz on all frequencies. Our warriors can't handle the casual energy. The human attack was unlike anything in military history. Soldiers advanced while chatting about their favorite movies. Gunners hummed along with the music while targeting alien ships. Ben slept through it all, occasionally mumbling something about wanting 5 more minutes. Sir, a Zarkax officer reported, their voice trembling. The humans are asking if we want to join their game night. They say we can bring snacks. I don't know how to respond to this. The Zarkax battle doctrine was falling apart. Their ships, designed to project menace, were retreating from human vessels that looked like they were headed to a party rather than a war. Amy's strategy reached its peak when she started broadcasting Ben's peaceful snoring across all channels. The sound of a human sleeping during what should have been a terrifying space battle caused widespread panic in the alien fleet. They're not even taking us seriously as a threat, a Zarkax commander wailed. How can we fight an enemy that naps during our attacks? Captain Wright watched as alien ships began surrendering one by one. Some crews requested to join game night, asking if they could bring their own snacks. Others begged to learn the secret of human casualness. Ben finally woke up as the last Zarkax ship surrendered. He stretched, yawned, and looked around at the cheering soldiers and confused aliens. Did we win? He asked sleepily. Yes, Miller, Wright answered, trying not to laugh. We won by being the most relaxed military force in galactic history. Fluffy and the other fear-bringers celebrated by giving Ben a group hug, careful not to poke him with their spikes. The sight of their ultimate bioweapons cuddling with a sleepy human was the final blow to Zarkak's morale. As the human fleet prepared to head home, Amy made one final broadcast. Game night is still on, and our new alien friends are all invited. Just remember to bring your own chairs and try to relax a little. The peace treaty signing ceremony was held in a large conference room at Base Camp Echo. The room was packed with human military leaders, converted fear-bringers wearing bow ties, and nervous Zarkax officials trying to understand how they had lost a war to people who treated it like a casual get-together. Ben Miller slept through most of the ceremony, using Fluffy as a backrest. The Zarkax Emperor's personal guard kept staring at him, amazed that anyone could sleep during such an important event. Two of them fainted when Ben started snoring. "Should we wake him?" a diplomat whispered to Captain Wright. She shook her head. "No, this is perfect. Look how nervous it's making them. We might get better terms in the treaty." The Zarkax had already agreed to most of Earth's demands, mainly because they were too scared of human casualness to argue. Their biggest request was permission to study human psychology, trying to understand how a species could be so relaxed in the face of terror. High Analyst Verthai had already started planning a new research institute. The Miller Institute for Human Psychological Studies would focus on understanding how humans could sleep through invasions and treat bioweapons like pets. "We must learn their secrets," Verthai told the Emperor. "Our entire species might benefit from being a little more casual." Lieutenant Amy Martinez had been put in charge of cultural exchange programs. She was teaching young Zarkax warriors how to relax, starting with simple things like casual Fridays and coffee breaks. Most of them were still too nervous to try napping. "Remember," she told her alien students, "the key to being casual is not trying too hard to be casual." The Fearbringers had become Earth's most popular therapy animals. Their ability to help people relax was ironic, considering they were designed to cause panic. Fluffy had even started a trend of Fearbringers wearing sweaters knitted by grateful humans. Ben finally woke up just as the treaty was being signed. He yawned, stretched, and asked if anyone wanted to get lunch. 3 Zarkax officials dropped their pens in shock at his perfect timing. "Miller," Captain Wright said, "you just slept through the most important peace treaty in human history." "Oh," Ben replied, scratching Fluffy behind what might have been an ear. "Was it nice?" The Zarkax Emperor, who had prepared a grand speech about the future of galactic relations, just stared at Ben with all 4 eyes. How could humans be so human? In the years that followed, the story of Earth's strangest victory became legend. The Zarkax Empire transformed from a civilization based on fear to one trying really hard to learn how to relax. They weren't very good at it, but they were trying. Verthay's Research Institute published regular papers about human behavior. Their most popular study was titled "The Miller Effect: How Human Nonchalance Defeats Terror." Ben was invited to give lectures, but he usually slept through them, which the aliens found both terrifying and fascinating. At Base Camp Echo, now a cultural exchange center, Ben kept his old bunk. Visitors from across the galaxy would come to watch him sleep, amazed by his ability to nap anywhere, anytime. Fluffy and the other Fearbringers stayed as base mascots, completely forgetting their original purpose as terror weapons. Captain Wright eventually added a plaque above Ben's bunk that read, "Here sleeps the human who won a war by napping." Ben slept through the plaque ceremony too, which everyone agreed was perfectly appropriate. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. Never try to terrorize a species that might just take a nap during your invasion, and treat your bioweapons like oversized puppies. Some things are just too casual to conquer.